Welcome to Ultra Life today. I'm going to use some surfer language. I'm totally stoked about having this guy on today. I'm sitting here with
Adam Payne. Yeah,
and
who's our guest, Josh?
This is Zane Z. Woods.
Ooh.
And I'm going to have to ask you, Zane, what's the middle initial Z stand for?
Zachary.
Zane Zachary.
Zane
Zachary.
Okay, did you ever go by your middle name, Zach?
No, I didn't. It was always Zane.
Zane.
Okay, so
Zane's a great name, though.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So this is a cool setup. So I'm visiting with a dear friend of mine who you know now, Lisa Luce.
Oh, yeah.
Health coach over at Natural Grocers, right?
She's amazing.
Yeah, and she's just a demo person. She's repped for so many supplement companies.
Health coach
all
at
over the
Natural
place.
Grocers Southside.
Right. So anyway, I'm walking in on a Friday afternoon, and she goes, "You just missed this guy.
What?
His name is Zane Woods, and you missed him." And I'm like, "So what's he all about?" And she goes, "He is a vegan bodybuilder, and he is electric, and he has so much going on." I'm like, "I'm there."
Vegan bodybuilder.
Yeah. So anyway.
How can that be? I mean, okay, I guess it can be.
Yeah. Hold on a second. You said something to me that just got me going, Zane. My son was totally into skateboarding and wakeboarding and everything extreme. You've been living this since you were an early teenager, right? This extreme thing.
Yeah.
So I want to hear a little bit of this story of where you started and then how you ultimately ended up being into bodybuilding, avoiding anabolic steroids, changing your life, because you showed me some before-after pictures, and I'm like, dude, how did you do this in such a short period of time?
Is it shocking?
It's absolutely amazing.
Tell us about the Zane before and the Zane after here.
Yeah. But again, as a young guy, your mind was wired toward extreme sports. Tell me about that.
But, I mean, what's the before? I mean, how radical of a change are we looking at here, Zane?
Well, I mean, it's been an up and down most of my life.
Yeah.
I love that. A real person.
Yeah. I mean, you go through
real person.
the roller coaster of life. You get ups and downs that you're learning, and I'll definitely give all credit to God. And
I like that.
my focus on him, kind of made a lot of the luster of the world as a youth go away. And I was fearless in that. So
Wow.
that really helped me in pursuing the extreme sports. I was looking for something more, looking for something else. My mother took me.
So the passion out of becoming something and pursuing the stuff of this world lost its luster in your life.
Yes.
Christ became the focus.
I was raised in a very religious family.
Okay. That can be good and bad.
Right. I had to go. I had to separate and find my own
We
path
could
for
go
sure. We all
really
do.
far
Right.
down that road.
But no, my mom had a big part in it as well. She took me out of school in 6th grade, and I was very, very good at academics.
So why take you out?
By the way, Adam, this guy's an inventor. We're going to go down that road too. You
Okay.
guys have a
We
lot
have a
in
lot to
common.
talk about, huh?
You have a lot in common.
Well, I mean, think about this. God does not just say, "I am God." He calls himself Creator God, right? And guess even more importantly, the first gifts of the Spirit ever described in the Bible.
You're going into the old covenant and
I
master craftsman, aren't you?
The first gifts of the Spirit, the first time God imbued something to a man was when he imbued those 2 craftsmen to build the temple and under the Moses covenant. And they were imbued with the spirit of incredible craftsmanship, creativity. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, God is all about the creative process and discovering and creating something new.
So real quickly, just so we can kind of check the boxes, what were extreme sports that you were into when you were young?
Extreme sports would have been cliff diving.
What? Oh, nice.
Surfing.
Yep.
Ocean kayaking. Motocross.
Yep.
Wakeboarding. Snowboarding. And skateboarding.
Wow. I mean,
I went pretty far into all of them.
How do you do diving here when you're based here in Oklahoma? You must be from out of state.
No, 10 Killer was a great place to practice that before they shut down the
Excellent
cliffs there.
place.
Yeah. And there's some pretty high ones. It started with the 30, 40-foot cliffs, then move up to 70 to 90, and
Wow.
I've jumped off the 90s there back in the day.
It's-
I wore tennis
that's
shoes to do
bravery.
it.
Yeah.
That's you
And
can
we
hurt
actually
yourself.
ran. We would run to get off that one cliff.
It was adrenaline rush, huh?
Oh.
How many
crazy.
seconds are you are in the air when you're doing that?
I'm going to say maybe 2.5, maybe 3.
It's very
you think?
fast.
It's
It
fast.
all happens very quickly.
Yeah.
And for me, the extreme sports, my pursuit of them then and now is the wanting to find that I have no limits. So what happens to my mind that I found whenever I go and do something that I previously believed that I could not do, then my mind has to rewire itself to understand that, okay, I didn't think I was capable of this, but I did it and I'm okay. So it really transforms my mind and my way of thinking into a there are no impossibilities type of realm. And so for me, that's a real big push, and it's something that I strive for. I crave it.
Transformed by the renewing of your mind. Sounds familiar to me.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
But somehow it went from extreme sports to helping people.
I mean, I don't know that I was that pure in the beginning of my pursuits.
Sure.
You look at what you're taught to pursue in this world, what you think you need to chase in this world in order to prove yourself.
Yep.
Yeah, prove yourself to others, and to prove to myself that I was worthy. According to what I saw was the ladder I needed to climb in this world.
Yep. How to
Now
be
that can be
accepted.
disillusioning, though.
It can, but it was a very good process for me to learn. I've been blessed. I mean, I was blessed in the fact that I was able to achieve everything that I was striving for in order to see that it wasn't of value to me.
Understood.
Wow, and I cannot say that about my life. I so many times never achieved so much of what I wanted to. You were in the Coast Guard for a while.
A volunteer, yeah. So I was stationed in Monterey.
Tell me about that. Monterey, California.
Monterey, California.
Oh, beautiful place.
I moved out there on my own in 19, and I started working at Adventures by the Sea, which is a great place where we did ocean kayak tours, corporate beach parties, things like that, and I loved it. I was there beach rescue because of my experience driving a boat for pro wakeboarding and things like that.
Wow.
Okay.
So the U.S. Coast Guard
at
offered.
the ripe age of 19.
Yeah.
Incredible.
19.
19.
Oh, wow. I mean, see,
Yeah, I went
this is-
for it. I went out
This is
there.
like living your life, man.
I've been very independent since about 12, 13,
Oh, my God.
which is when my mom took me out of school,
Okay.
and we lived out in the country, and we were surrounded by thousands of acres of forest, woods, streams, rivers, lakes, ponds, and that's where I spent the majority of my day growing up. So I was out there. I'd get up at sunup, and I'd be out in the woods till sundown. My mom calling, my name out. I could remember hearing it as I was trying to make it back through the dark in the woods.
Wow. So was God your teacher at this time?
Without a doubt.
What?
Still is.
That's an incredible relationship to have. To have that intensity of learning and teaching and interacting with nature.
And I'm not special for it. I was blessed by it. I mean, anybody would benefit from it,
Right.
in my opinion. And I mean, I think that's what we all want, is a time to have freedom to discover for ourselves, to reason for ourselves, to, it's like it's R&D of yourself when you're allowed to, without being constantly attacked with what other people believe are facts according to their own opinions.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
So, did you ever rescue anybody out there at 19 or 20 years old?
I did.
In California?
What?
A lot of otters. So the Johns Hopkins Research Center is right there in the Monterey Bay.
Wait, you rescued otters?
Yeah, sea otters.
He's,
So,
he's an eco guy.
Okay.
He rescued humans and
hey,
otters.
I grew up in the woods pretty
Right.
much. That's for sure. No, but so
Aren't otters vicious? They have teeth and
no,
claws.
they're very kind. They're big. They're bigger than you would think. The sea otters, they look small out there floating, but they're about 250 to 300 pounds,
What?
My.
which I learned
What?
when I first went to go
What?
catch one.
You
So
mean re-
I
you
moved
mean-
out there from,
You mean rescue? I mean, you were rescuing these otters?
and I would retrieve some of the dead ones for research for Johns Hopkins. So because they are an endangered species, and we were in the marine sanctuary there, the kelp forests in the Monterey Bay, and so that's where I gave ocean kayak tours, surf lessons, and I was the one who watched the coast through my training. Got the all waters lifeguard through the U.S. Coast Guard, and so they named me Aqua God and got me a shirt and and a jacket and everything from the harbor for rescuing people. But I did get a lifetime membership to the Monterey Bay Aquarium for
What?
yeah,
That is one of my
was fascinating.
favorite places.
I love it there. Yeah, and that was from all helping them protect, rescue, and retrieve the sea otters and things that they needed out there. Because nobody else would do it.
How in the world does one rescue a sea otter? Because when you told me 250 to 300 pounds, I'm like,
well, see, I came out there from Oklahoma.
Give us an example. I mean, I don't think we're really understanding this.
Okay,
here.
I'll give you an example. So the first time I did it, I would go down to the beach, and there was a bunch of people out there looking, and there was a sea otter that was struggling, looked like it was in trouble. Maybe a boat had hit it.
Oh.
And the waves there was probably 20-foot swells that day. And we're not on the outer coast. We're in the bay, but the outside sets do come in rows of 10 to 12 typically. And they're pretty large. So most of the time they shut down the beach. I kept it open, and I had just an adventurous spirit, and I just did not see any fear. And I believe that's because I had a relationship with God, because I just didn't have any fear, whether it was merited or not.
So was there this understanding and connection with the animal when you went out there to help it?
I guess I just never, and I feel this with animals till today, even bears, or because I put myself in situations in a lot of wilderness areas that I go into on my own at night, climb mountains by myself at night still. And so I feel like, I don't know, I think humans are more dangerous than animals, honestly.
Sure. And
so I don't have a fear of them. It's like a dog to me.
Sure. But so you connect with this animal and help it.
I believe that they sense that. I mean, I've witnessed them.
I've seen some videos of, there's this amazing video that's been circulating of this elk coming out onto the highway and like coming up to cars and essentially trying to get people to come out to a place. And finally people followed the elk to a mud pit where its whole family had gotten stuck. And some of them had actually sunk under the mud and died, and there was the rest of the family that was marooned there. I mean, so these animals, they can create profound connections with us.
Absolutely.
If we're open to it.
I mean, look at horses. Men ride horses into battle. Those horses will run into battle because of their bond with the human that's on their back.
Right. So what is a sea otter like?
Very, very gentle. To me, docile, kind, non-aggressive. They really just enjoy their life.
Are they intelligent?
Very intelligent, very family-oriented.
Do they connect with you? Do you feel like you connected with any of them?
I think they fear us.
Really?
And I think that's because of actions that have happened. That's why they're an endangered species. I think but I don't think there's an aggression towards humans that they have at all. I think they do understand that they do need help in situations. From what I witnessed, anyway.
So did you provide first aid to any of these animals?
I did not provide first aid, but I was able to pull several onto my kayak in different instances, which is very hard to balance a kayak in the ocean waves when you
with a 200-pound animal.
Pulling it up on the first time I did it, I was shocked at how difficult it was to pull it up onto the boat. But
did the animal help you? Was it?
It seemed to appreciate.
That's awesome.
All right, so we're going to be moving into another segment here.
I know this has nothing to do with
our show, it's okay.
But
I'm
so enamored. I'm so enamored by Zane and your life story up to this point.
Yeah. So this is Ultra Life Today. I'm Josh Bellew. That's Adam Payne over there. We're having a really cool conversation with a guy named Zane Z. Woods. zzwoods@yahoo.com. Almost sounds like a rock and roll band, doesn't it? ZZ Woods. Anyway, zzwoods@yahoo.com. You can get a hold of him. These next segments, we're going to get into the life of a bodybuilder. How did Zane get into this? How does a vegan bodybuilder eat? I mean, this is I'm just so intrigued.
It's tofu.
Yeah, we will be right back. This is Ultra Life Today. You love what we're doing? Pick us up on YouTube. Wherever you like podcasts, you can find us, Ultra Life Today. If you want to learn more about us and our technology, ultratoday.com. We'll be right back.
Our mission is to take nature's most beloved botanicals and enhance them with our liquid protein scaffold technology. This helps it reach your cells faster and better. With exponentially enhanced bioavailability, you'll feel better every day. Ultra Botanica, the feel-good curcumin.
Welcome back to Ultra Life Today. I am one of your hosts. I'm Josh Bellew with
Adam Payne here, and we are interviewing Zane.
Zane Woods.
Zane Z.
So Zane, when you and I talked on the phone the other day, and I could have talked with you for hours. There's so many fascinating things in your world, but something that was kind of crazy to me. I just found out today that you moved out to Monterey at 19. I told you I was sitting eating lunch. I had a glass of milk here and a peanut butter sandwich, and I was about to move out to Santa Monica, California. I was into a guy named Frank Zane, into a guy named Arnold Schwarzenegger, Robbie Robinson, Andreas Calling, the first vegan bodybuilder I ever heard about in my life way back in the day. And this was, I'm 64 now, so I was literally 18 years old. And I was about to go out there, and as I told you, Christ encountered me at this table I was sitting at on my lunch hour. It was quite an amazing experience.
I haven't heard this story, Josh.
It's cool. We'll
how old were you then?
I was 18.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, but it's really interesting because I was going to totally change my life. I was going to move out and do something entirely different, and that kept me from moving to California. Now, in hindsight, I can look and go, oh my God, the trouble I would have gotten into, Zane, in California would have been horrific. But here you are at 19 years old. You're out there in Monterey. You're doing this volunteer Coast Guard thing. How did that transition you into doing something as disciplined as becoming a bodybuilder, getting into fitness? Who were your influences? Or was it just, once again, Zane is this guy that's just like out there, boom, focused, making up my mind?
I'm going to make a guess that it was all part of the same package. But then God had his hand on his life.
Did you have any influences that were molding your life at that time?
I remember the moment. Yeah,
really?
Okay, I got to hear about it.
So it would have been about 94.
Oh, wow.
14 years old.
Wow.
At one of my friends' homes, who, as it was on a ranch that I worked on because his grandfather was my mentor. He owned the old Gaylord ranches.
Oh, wow.
And I worked fence line, cattle, all that kind of stuff for him. But we were in his bedroom, my friend Chris Tiscarino, we're in his bedroom in the evening, and he puts on Conan the Destroyer.
The movie.
Oh
my gosh.
And I see Arnold Schwarzenegger with his, back lifting up this big rock gate and all these muscles, and it fascinated me that the human form could become that.
Right.
Interesting.
And I thought, well, if he can do that, any of us can do that. And so, we saved up, bought a workout bench, put it in his garage. We started working out then, got a membership at Gold's. So I really actually did my first bodybuilding. I remember we were in Gold's gym. I was 18 years old, and it was at the water fountain.
Now, were you out in California at the time?
No.
Okay.
I hadn't moved out there yet. This is right before I moved out to California.
Okay.
We had been doing our extreme sports. Chris was one of my friends that did the extreme sports with me and everything, pretty much everything at the time. And I'm at a water fountain at Gold's Gym, and I'm looking, there's a poster that had the Red River Bodybuilding Classic.
I remember that.
And I'm looking at it, and Chris behind me says, he sees me looking at it, he goes, oh, come on, you could never do that. I was the type that had heard anything.
Gauntlet, right?
So I heard that, and and it was about 16 weeks out. And I said, I can do that.
How much did you weigh at the time?
Probably 195 pounds.
And how tall are you?
Right now, 6 foot. Then I was about 5'11".
Okay.
So
you may be like me. I actually grew after I was 21.
I did.
Kind of crazy. Interesting.
Which is surprising, but I did. Yeah. So I trained myself. I had help. I asked questions from all the older bodybuilders in the gym,
4 months out, 16 weeks.
And I trained myself. I dieted myself. Again, I did have, help from like Brian Atterbury. He's well known in Edmond. He was training for Mr. Oklahoma. He and I trained together quite a bit. And Ron Bourne, who was also an older, experienced bodybuilder. I was able to ask them and pester them with lots of questions, which they had patience and wisdom with this young guy and helped me out free of charge,
I'm sure there were a lot of questions.
A lot. I attribute a lot of my success in anything to being able to humble myself enough to ask questions.
That's a great attitude.
Because that's how you learn, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's got to start somewhere. But I did that show, the Red River Bodybuilding Classic, and I took second place Midwest region. And
What?
no anabolics, just got in serious shape.
And were you right at about 190 when you went peak
When
for
I
that
did
show?
that show, I believe I was like 179.
Dude,
Wow.
you dropped about
They told me to
18 or
get lean,
19
so I did.
pounds in 16 weeks.
Yeah, I was
Wow.
shredded. I think it was 2.3% body fat.
Wow.
Incredible.
That's Olympic.
But what I
body
really
fat.
appreciated was how much I learned about my body through the process. I was so lean, I could literally eat a cup of broccoli and watch, the hydration under my, subcutaneously, like happen to my body. And it made me realize, look, if I see that much change when I eat broccoli or when I eat eggs, what happens when I eat a Snickers?
Oh, wow.
And
What did happen?
It started me down that process of how affected we are by the small things and anything we put in our body. Now, I say that I did go off rail. So I did that show. I was doing really well. I got distracted by all the pretty things in the world and wanted to go attack corporate America. I wanted to go attack business and try to prove my worth.
And
all that
you
kind of stuff.
did. Tell us a little
And,
bit
I had a
about
little
that.
bit of I'll be honest, there was a little bit of a chip on my shoulder because of not going through school, because of my mother taking me out 6th grade. And I didn't complete any curriculum. I literally was raised in the woods every day.
Oh my God.
So I felt I had something to prove, even though I didn't. To me, I did.
Yeah.
And so I chased all the things I probably shouldn't. But I did learn a lot from it. I learned what wasn't valuable. I learned what caused harm to others and myself. And then I had to reevaluate. And what happened, so I did accomplish quite a bit in the corporate world, and nothing to brag about from my perspective or in my opinion.
You're such a humility guy, but I love
Listen,
being able to talk about
it's
the
almost
things
shameful to
that
me.
happened along the way, because there's people out there that are listening to you right now. And when you mention, oh yeah, I took a dive into the corporate world and I achieved this. Oh, I was an inventor and I did research and did R&D. The battery thing has got me fascinated.
What?
So
That was neat. That was neat.
yeah. So corporate world, how did you transition into doing research and what you did to become an inventor and win awards at that? I mean,
Wait a minute.
Well, you got to remember,
From bodybuilding to inventorship?
yeah, it's a really cool story.
Well, you got to remember, I came from, my background literally was, I spent most of the day by myself exploring nature growing up.
Did
from like
your mom
13
give
to-
you any guidance? Did you have any structure in that?
She attempted to. I was very independent and I was a large
wow.
kid and I kind of did what I wanted.
Oh my gosh.
And I started working young. I started working at about 12 years old, full time.
Well,
So
dude,
working on a
if
ranch
you
and-
were building fences and running horses, man.
Yeah, and
Wow.
I did a lot of stuff. And so my mentor, Carl Luce was his name. He had moved out here from California. He was a German immigrant. And he bought up all of the properties in the oil bust back in the 80s. So he was out here. He bought, the Gaylord Ranch. I worked on the ranch. I became a very good friend of his. I asked a lot of questions and he liked that. And he taught me a lot of things. Everything
he
from
must have been a phenomenal business mentor.
and a very good person. He told one of the things he told me that stood out. He said, "Don't ever owe anything to anybody but love."
Wow.
And that stuck with me.
That's awesome.
And a lot of
Oh,
things.
say that again. Don't owe anybody anything except
Love.
love.
It's actually a scripture, I believe it's in
It is.
Corinthians, let no debt remain outstanding, but the only debt.
And that's exactly
love.
what it is. And so he was quoting that. And so,
Nice.
but he had a lot of patience and wisdom with me because I was a young man, that probably high energy, that asked a lot of questions and always wanted to know. And he taught me things. He let me take apart engines and rebuild them. He taught me how things worked. He spent a lot of additional time with me. He taught me. I paper traded under him for 3 years. He was real big and
Wow.
he was very successful.
Wow.
Very successful. So he taught me a lot of things that I never would have learned. So I did end up getting an education, just in a very different way than most people did. In my pursuits in the corporate world, I went gung-ho. Anything I go after, I go full steam, which has been good and bad for me.
Right.
Right. You learn lessons and you have successes. But out of all the businesses, I had a cell phone tower building company. I had a car dealership. These are both by 22.
Way cool.
It was my favorite thing to do. I wish I could go back to the woods or the extreme sports most of the time.
Right.
Then, in the pursuits of corporate America, I ended up having a big oil and gas service company, which wasn't my favorite, but it was lucrative, and that's why I went after it. Ended up having the 30th fastest growing company in the United States.
Wow.
Was on many magazines, got Inc. awards, all those kind of things. Which,
right.
What are their value at the end of the day? You put your trophy, you put your bottles, you put your emblems, your medals up on the wall, and then you still go to bed on a pillow like everybody else.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you have to be able to sleep, and sleep comes from a clean conscience, is what I've learned. And so, I don't know, there was a lot of things that I was pursuing that took time away from things that were more valuable and important to me. I just went way down that road. I did learn a lot. In the midst of that, I got bored, and I had a lot of money. I had a lot of success. I had a lot of access. So
how old were you at this point?
Probably 30, 31.
Okay. And Zane, just give me some perspective. How old are you now?
I'm 43.
Okay, so this was like 13 years ago.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, this takes a really fast forward.
So
it's pretty cool.
I used my money and my access. I actually had a lot of friends in much bigger places than I was. So I thought, well, I want to discover what I can while I'm up here. I want to find out the truth. I want to find out the conspiracy theories. I want to find out. So I built a lab, a 6,000 square foot lab dedicated to all departments of science.
And this was just right down I-40, right? That way.
Yeah, by Yukon.
Toward the Yukon area.
Area, yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, we went deep. Mycology, botany. I got into the entheogeans, got into electromagnetics, which is where I've discovered the battery, to me, I
know you were going to love this, Adam.
Battery is a copy where I learned it. And literally I had a dream about it, but.
Oh, that's probably Holy Spirit.
The God drops.
Certainly,
yeah.
which are getting gifts for his purpose and then using them to discover. Sometimes it takes a little meandering to find your way.
Not always.
Sure.
It's not always just.
Sure.
Right.
You
It's not on a
get a
platter.
little bit at a time.
Right.
But I understood what I could see is that the human body is a battery.
Oh, so much so.
And it's copied after the Earth, which is a battery, which is copied off of the solar system and universe, which is also operating in the same way. All electromagnetics, all gravity, all energy, all connection. And so by utilizing that, I was able to develop a longer lasting battery. I had some big businessmen approach me offering to buy me Teslas to try and make them run indefinitely, that type of thing. But
That doesn't work.
I chose a drone, which was more difficult because you have all kinds of interferences with the electromagnetic field and the EMI with getting a drone to fly. But I ended up building the world's longest lasting rechargeable drone battery, which I have the proof of concept letter from the engineers at University of Oklahoma.
Wow.
And then it got tested at Qualcomm, which is where the battery still resides. Became good friends with, Google and the CEOs there and all that information. But the pursuit, I was pulled away from it. I had a real big experience. Took me a long time to understand what it was. Honestly, I feel like it was a born again experience, as they call it, but a spiritual experience. And I remember the moment.
So you had a real encounter with Messiah.
Okay. Got to stop us here. We're going to pick this up in the next segment. And by the way,
Next segment. This is going to be this is the halftime. So we're going to be next week.
100 episodes.
Wow.
We're moving into 100 episodes, Adam Payne.
Wow.
With Ultra
So
Congratulations.
we're going to keep all of our listeners on the edge of a cliff here.
We are, because his story is fascinating, and it's just begun.
It's
because
wild.
we're going to talk about vegan bodybuilding. We're going to talk about calories. How does one do what you do? I've seen pictures of you with your shirt off, dude. Man, I've seen pictures of you in competition, and it's like, how's this guy doing this without steroids?
It surprises
He
me,
is
honestly.
ripped.
I'll look in the mirror and just be shocked. most of the
Anyway,
time.
so we'll be right back with Ultra Life today. I'm Josh Bellew. Adam Payne's sitting over there, and this is Zane Woods. Hey, zzwoods@yahoo.com. You can get a hold of this guy and find out about vegan bodybuilding and a lot of other stuff as well. We'll be right back.